was Hezekiah's prayer before the attack of Sennacherib? This is the question we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of 2 Kings on walking through the Bible. Today we're going to be discussing 2 Kings chapter 19, verses 8 to 19. But before we do that, let's read the passage. If you have a Bible with you, turn to 2 Kings chapter 19, verse 8. But if you don't have a Bible, don't worry, just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So 2 Kings chapter 19, beginning at verse 8. Then the Rabshakeh returned and found the king of Assyria warring against Libnah, for he heard that he had departed from Lachish. And the king heard concerning Tirhakah, king of the Ethiopia, "Look, he has come out to make war with you." So he again sent messengers to Hezekiah, saying, "Thus you shall speak to Hezekiah, king of Judah, saying, Do not let your God in whom you trust deceive you, saying, Jerusalem shall not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria. Look, you have heard what the kings of Assyria have done to all the lands by utterly destroying them. And shall you be delivered? Have the gods of those nations delivered those whom my fathers have destroyed, Gozan and Haran and Rezeph, and the people of Eden who were in Telassar? Where is the king of Hamath, the king of Arpad, and the king of the city of the Sepharvaim, Hena and Ivah?" And Hezekiah received the letter from the hand of the messengers and read it. And Hezekiah went up to the house of the Lord and spread it before the Lord. Then Hezekiah prayed before the Lord and said, "O Lord God of Israel, the one who dwells between the cherubim, you are God, you alone, of all the kingdoms of the earth. You have made heaven and earth. Incline your ear, O Lord, and hear. Open your eyes, O Lord, and see, and hear the words of Sennacherib, which he has sent to reproach the living God. Truly, Lord, the kings of Assyria have laid waste the nations and their lands, and have cast their gods into the fire, for they were not gods, but the work of men's hands, wood and stone. Therefore they destroyed them. Now therefore, O Lord our God, I pray, save us from his hand, that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that you are the Lord God, you alone." The year is about 698 BC. 3 years earlier, Sennacherib of Assyria had successfully come down and put down a rebellion led by Hezekiah, who sought to release Judah from the tribute that Ahaz had placed it under during the days of Tiglath-Pileser, when Ahaz sought relief from the attacks of Pekah of Israel and Rezin of Syria. The reason that succeeded was because Hezekiah didn't trust in the Lord, but rather again submitted to Sennacherib by paying him tribute. This time, though, would be different, as we see in today's reading. Now, of course, the Assyrians were still the same, if not even more arrogant than they were before in trusting in their own might and strength. The Rabshakeh, who had been sent to Jerusalem ahead of the Assyrian army, warned the people that Hezekiah couldn't save them, and neither could their God. Hezekiah, though, had changed. Now, even those 3 years before, he didn't lose faith in God, but he had a moment of weakness. This time, though, Hezekiah in humility entreated God to protect them. He sent his servants to Isaiah the prophet in order that he might entreat the Lord on their behalf as well. And so Isaiah told them not to fear, for the Lord would send a rumor to the Assyrian king, who would then retreat back to his homeland, where he would be killed. This would have been comforting to Hezekiah, for even though he had not trusted in the Lord earlier, the Lord didn't abandon him and would help Judah now that they were trusting in him. While all this was going on, the Rabshakeh had intended to return to Lachish to see the Assyrian army, but by now Sennacherib had defeated Lachish and moved on to Libnah, shown now on the screen as a city likely little to the north and east of Lachish and on one of the paths leading towards Jerusalem. It is here that Sennacherib learns that Tirhakah, king of Ethiopia, is coming to make war with him. The Ethiopia here is not the Ethiopia of today, but rather the Cushites of Upper Egypt and northern Sudan today. Looking to the Egyptian history, Tirhakah can be identified as Tarhaka, one of the pharaohs from the 25th dynasty of Egypt, the time period of the Nubian kings. The issue that some have with this is that Tarhaka did not assume the throne until about 690 BC, and yet these events occurred at about 698 BC, almost a decade prior. Why would Tirhakah thus be referred to as a king? And the answer is quite simple. This is not a book of Egyptian history, but giving the history of the kingdoms of Israel and Judah. When 2 Kings was written, along with Isaiah, Tirhakah was already king of Egypt, and so referring to him this way is like us saying that King Charles III was born in 1948. Charles wasn't born a king when he was born a prince, but as of the recording of this lesson, he is the current king of the United Kingdom, and so we speak of him this way. Tirhakah was likely the commander of the armies of the Egyptian pharaoh at the time of Sennacherib's march toward Jerusalem here in chapter 19, but since he became pharaoh later on, the writer of 2 Kings and Isaiah refer to him as king. This message that came to Sennacherib was the rumor that Isaiah had promised the Lord would send to the king of Assyria that would eventually lead to his withdrawal. And we do know that it did concern him somewhat, for he sent messengers back to Hezekiah telling him not to let the God whom you trust deceive you into thinking that Jerusalem would be spared, for even with the help of the Egyptians, he would prevail. What gave Sennacherib this confidence? The gods of the nations whom he and his fathers had destroyed previously hadn't helped them, and that would continue to be the case here. When Hezekiah received this message, he again approached the Lord at the temple to entreat him for deliverance. Had Hezekiah's faith wavered upon hearing the message of Sennacherib? No, I don't believe it did, as we can see from Hezekiah's words. Instead, Hezekiah is humbly imploring the Lord to deal with the Assyrians who continue to blaspheme his name and to deliver Judah from their hands. Hezekiah fully admits that the gods of the nations defeated by the Assyrians didn't help them, for those gods weren't real, but the works of men's hands. However, Jehovah is different. He is the supreme God of this universe. He doesn't exist because man says he does. He exists because he exists. He existed before this universe began, for he created this universe. He exists today, and he will exist after this universe ends, because he will bring about its end. And by bringing down the Assyrians who continue to blaspheme, he would not only show the Assyrians, but the other nations as well, that Jehovah alone is God, able to raise up and bring down nations as he sees fit. This is quite a powerful prayer by Hezekiah, one that showed his deep faith and trust in God. What will God's response be? Find out, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of 2 Kings chapter 19, verses 20 to 28, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time.
Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.